I'll be spending the next 100 days in Pixelmon with a single goal of capturing every starter Pokemon and trapping them in my base. This will not be an easy challenge as each starter is unique in how they spawn. So I start off my brand new journey on the PokeLand server, which you can join and play along with me using the server IP on screen or check the tutorial video linked in the description. I ended up choosing Quaxly as my starter as I had never used a Gen 9 Pokemon before, and I'd have to say, it was the wrong choice as there was one that particularly haunted me throughout this challenge. I started off by talking to the NPC that allows you to roll for free daily Pokemon. This could have given me a starter on day 1, but nope, it was just a Shuppet. While roaming around spawn, I found a wild Zamazenta, and just as I was throwing my Pokeball, it noticed me, so I chased after the flying beast, but eventually it got away. One of the features of the server is that the Pokemon come in different sizes, anywhere from the size of a pixel to an absolute giant. While I was trying to find a good spot to set up my base, a titanic Rayquaza spawned in front of me. This is a feature of the server called Decoy Pokemon. It's basically a boss that is super tough to beat. It has incredible stats, and if you are lucky enough to defeat one of these beasts, you get a bunch of super good rewards. So after getting my butt kicked like I had never before, I had nothing else to live for. The server had a Wonder Trade feature, so I traded away my Smoliv and got a Torracat in return, which was awesome. But even though it is a star Pokemon, it's not what I wanted as I only want the baby form and not its evolutions. So then I checked the GTS, which is a player-run shop. A few people were selling some fire starters, but I barely had any money, so I headed to the mines to get my bread up. Before I knew it, my Quaxly was evolving into Quaxwell, and just like that, I went from having one starter to absolutely none. What a great start. I then found myself a place to start building my base, so I flattened the area around it and placed down a few chests to store all the blocks I needed before I began building. There is a command called /legendary. With every time you use it, the cooldown increases, but your odds of getting a legendary from it also goes up. Luckily, I got a shiny Dartrix from it, which still doesn't count, but shiny Decidueye is one of my faves. And fittingly, I named him Robin. I then went to the training area, which spawns high-level Pokemon for you to beat and gain experience. And in no time, the whole team ended up evolving thanks to the XP all that I had bought from the shop, worth a big total of 50 grand. This meant we could now start hunting down some starters. While I was in the desert looking for a Fennekin, I completed one of my achievements, which in return gives you a few rewards. One of those happened to be a random Pokemon, and I got really lucky as it gave me a Piplup. From here on out, I don't plan on evolving any of the starters that I find, so we are officially on the board now. Building my base was proving to be expensive. I had to use a bunch of different techniques, like selling any Pokemon I caught to the server, doing the daily bingo of catching Pokemon, or going back to the mine to sell ores to get some money. It took me plenty of days, but I finally had something of a home prepared, along with a large storage system. The lesson I learned is that I am not a great designer by any stretch of the imagination. I then headed over to the server Safari, which was a much easier way of finding biomes to find these starter Pokemon. And after spending some time in the jungle, I found a Trico just walking around, which was great news for me as I could catch it and claim my second starter. But just as I was about to leave, I saw that there was a Litten on the map, which is the Gen 7 fire starter, and looking at it, you can tell that it's pretty freaking tiny. I have no idea if that's a good or bad thing since I do eventually want to build a zoo to hold them in, and just like that, I had 3 out of 27 starters. You doing okay, bud? I then took some time to explore the server's gym feature, which is where you can battle an NPC-run gym and obtain badges upon defeating them. There are 8 gyms in total. Once you enter a gym, you can't leave, nor can you heal your team while facing the 3 trainers back to back. These were actually quite the challenge, and by the end of this, I was only able to get 2 gym badges, but if I really tried, I'm sure I could have gotten more. I was hunting for a Totodile that spawns around rivers, and that's when I ran into this. Yeah, I don't even know what to call it, but something tells me that this guy really likes apricorns. Well, that got me thinking, maybe I should make my own apricorn farm. So I expanded my base by building it upwards and started a farm right on top of it. It took me a few days, but it was complete, and while showing off the new features that I added, a Chikorita spawned, so I gladly caught it, making it my 4th starter. So what do you guys think of my base, huh? I was just messing around, so I bought a bucket with a fish in it from the shop, and when I placed it down, a Goldeen popped out of it, which was something alright. On the server, players are able to create their own warps for other people to come visit. So I started teleporting to a few of them to check out the amazing builds that they've made. Some players even have their own shops where you can simply stock a chest with an item and let others buy them even when you are away. Well, I did the same with my base, so if you want to live around my house or catch me on the server, you can use the player warp that I created or just find the location yourself with the coords on screen. Wait a second, that's a score bunny. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. How am I supposed to showcase these Pokemon for people to see if they're all gonna end up frickin' microscopic? With my 5th starter down and having been so far into the 100 days, I realized that I needed to step up my game. I couldn't afford to waste any more time. What can I say? Opening crates is fun. And if you want some keys for yourself, you can try the parkour at spawn. Completing it once a day will give you an uncommon key, which is really nice. Not a lot of servers give you freebies. While I was training a few of my Pokemon, I had to defeat Exegutors, and naturally they dropped eggs upon defeating them. And eventually, I just wanted to get rid of the junk in my inventory, and that's when this happened. Wait, what? Are you for real? Why have I never seen that before? Torchic, okay, you're off the board. Who would have thought that it would have actually hatched out of an egg? The server also has fun little mini games for everyone to participate in. One of them is a race where it announces a task to be completed, and the first one to do so will get a reward. These can range anywhere from just crafting an item to catching a certain type of Pokemon. So whenever this happened, I got out my stack of Ultra Balls and yeeted them all over Pokemon at the safari. I found the item that helps place Pokemon in the world like a model. It's called a Poke Display. What you require is Pokeballs, leads, silver ingots, redstone, and smoothstone slabs. You can place them anywhere in the world and attach one of the Pokemon in your party to it, and just like that, the statue takes form with a few animations as well. It's a Mudkip! Oh, arguably the best water starter to ever exist. I mean, how can you not love the little guy? I mean, now, the Kipster is off the board. I wasn't gonna be able to complete this challenge alone, as sometimes it just boils down to pure luck on whether the Pokemon you want would spawn or not. And I noticed somebody in chat trying to buy a Bulbasaur from somebody else. So that was my cue to jump in, bribing the dealer with my money, and then I offered them my love, but I don't know why they didn't want it. Must have been a jerk or something. But then an admin stepped in and gave me a Bulbasaur for free. I'd be playing him like fiddles. And just like that, we removed the first ever starter off the list. So now that I've figured out how to place Pokemon models, I now needed to start my plans of building the zoo. So instead of creating a separate building, I connected it to my already stupid looking base. Building this out took quite a lot of time and resources. I had to figure out how big I wanted each of the areas to be, those being the areas for the grass, fire, and water Pokemon respectively, and how exactly I would want to connect them all together. While preparing my build, I noticed that somebody was selling a couple of Sprigatitos on the market, so I bought one of those without hesitation, cause I didn't even know where one of those normally spawn. So now that I don't have to deal with that, we are a third of the way done with our challenge. So I started off with a water area. It would obviously have to include aspects of a beach and an ocean, but also an icy area for Piplup. But then came the issue that a few of the water-type Pokemon spawn in the swamp. So I decided to make 2 separate enclosures for each type. That way it would be a little bit more separated based on where the Pokemon spawns. So by the end of things, I had a bit of a mixed deep ocean, and for the second area, well, it's a swamp. I still have so many stars to find, each of them having different biomes and times that they spawn in. But that also meant that at any point in time, there was one species that would meet the conditions for spawning. So in that way, I could keep going back and forth between two areas to refresh the spawns, and get the best chance of finding what I needed. Well, looky here, look who decided to finally show up. Sometimes I do kind of forget how cute Cyndaquil really is. Tapping on the other hand though, debatable. I then went to the warp where you can open different kinds of crates using keys. I used up my shiny key and we came so close to getting ourselves a Charmander, but we were unfortunately one off the mark. I mean, at least this way we can get the one shiny Charizard for the video. As we all know, Charizard equals views. Oh, wait, I see one around the corner. Oh, there you are, my little buddy. Dirtweed. Is that it? Did I get it? I don't think I got it. I was kinda just doing my own thing, and suddenly, a decoy Solgaleo spawned on me. It was a tier 3 boss out of a total of 5 tiers, so it isn't the hardest version. After struggling to get into battle with it, things didn't get any better. With its absurd stats, any moves I used barely did any damage. Neither did I have the luxury of setting up, as it would just kill me, and using potions wasn't an option, cause, you know, I'm flat broke. So I yet again failed to beat a decoy Pokemon. Wait, a Snorlax. I'm gonna just throw my Ultra Ball and see what happens. Surely this ain't gonna work, right? Huh, who would've guessed? You know what, let's get some forgettable stars out of the way. I mean, if you are seriously one of the few people whose favorite Pokemon is Chespin or Poplio, let me know, cause I'm actually kinda curious. The people in charge of the server were kind enough to give me their monthly loot box for me to open. And you have a chance of receiving a bunch of really cool and overpowered rewards. So when I opened mine, one of the rewards was a certain amount of universal shards. Shards are an interesting feature on the server. Every Pokemon has a shard with their name on it, and if you collect 400 of a specific species, you will be able to summon it. And just like that, I was able to summon and catch myself a Tapu Koko. I wasn't actually sure where Fuecoco spawns, but one spawned while I was goofing around, so that's always a bonus, I guess. So I don't have to worry about that. Nighttime came upon us, and whenever it did, I took the time to hunt for a Fennekin, and sooner than later, this cute little creature appeared. Does anybody else feel like it got completely ruined by Delphox, or is it just me? I made my way to Ultra Space. It's always so mysterious and calming in a weird way. And normally there tend to be a lot of raid dens here, so I try to find a star Pokemon in them for a few hours, but I didn't have any luck. So I returned to the normal world and camped in an Extreme Hills biome since the 2 remaining fire starters only spawned there. I wasn't having any luck finding either Chimchar or Charmander in the mountains of the Safari, so I had to take my hunt to the outside world. And I gotta say, he has a real booty on him. That's one more starter off the board. You know what, let's just not speak of what I said. Rowlet was a tricky capture because it spawned really high up in a tree, and without being able to fly, I had to hope that I could throw my Pokeball far enough, and luckily for me, the Rowlet was huge to say the least, so it had a pretty big hitbox. For my Grass-type Enclosure, all the blocks I needed were pretty simple. All I had to do was create a flowery plains biome since a lot of the Pokemon spawn in the forest. I put down a log and a campfire for aesthetics, I guess. And for the second enclosure, I decided to go with a jungle theme for all the agile Pokemon like Trico and Groupie and Bulbasaur, I guess. At one point in the safari, I could see that there was a Snivy on the map. I looked around for quite a while around the building, and I even went to the top and searched with my other perspectives, as the only place it could have been was on the roof. Unfortunately, I couldn't fly on my Pokemon since it was a claimed area. Oh, it is up there. I mean, I knew it, but how far is this gonna go? I mean, throwing this is my only choice anyway, so... Yes, we got the snipe! Hey, I see a Squirtle just up ahead. Okay, just gotta catch up to you and lock you up in this jail cell forever, I guess? Once again, just like Snivy, I noticed that there was a Groupie on the map. I was so excited since this was the last grass type that I needed, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I looked on the ground, parkoured my way through the trees, and searched in every small crevice between the leaves, and I was getting really frustrated. Days had passed by, and eventually I thought of the idea of using ender pearls, and so I shot my way into a hole. And yeah, this piece of crap, how'd you get in there? Oh my god, it's trapped. How am I? It's literally trapped on all four sides, and throwing my Pokeball isn't doing anything either. So sadly, I had to give up. I went back home to complete the final rooms for Fire-type Pokemon, and I obviously had to have one room with a Nether and Lava theme. But then came the problem that a lot of Fire-type actually spawn in weirdly simple locations like plains, jungles, deserts, and savannas, so since I had to combine one room to be an arid area, I had to shave the Nether idea and make it a combination with a mountainous biome for Pokemon like Chimchar and Charmander. And I finally finished all the rooms that I wanted, so all I had to do was wrap up the hunt. I found a second chest bin, and this one happened to be much bigger, so I decided to replace the old one, as the bigger it is, the more visible it is. And finally, Froakie decided to show up, so I caught it easily and threw it in the marshy enclosure. Oh great, just great. Another tiny Pokemon. But at least this was the last fire type that I needed. Besides Groupie, all I had left were water types, and according to me, they are the trickiest to hunt for as they spawn in biomes which are really small like beaches and rivers, but there was an item that I could use to increase my chances. When you attach a lure in your inventory, it makes it so that a Pokemon of a certain type are more likely to spawn around you. So I visited a player shop that sells them and bought some water and grass lures to help me complete the rest of the hunt. This was actually a game-changing strategy as I was instantly able to find a Quaxly and place it in my zoo. Ashawat to me was the trickiest Pokemon to find. It only spawns on stony shores, which are hard to find, and even when I did come across one, the size of it was pretty small. I had to expand upon it myself to have a chance of one spawning, and this would take time that I couldn't afford to waste. And after days of asking people if anyone had one, all the responses I got were negatory, until this one guy showed up willing to sell an Ashawat to me. It was a miracle, and I couldn't believe my luck. Like, realistically, think about it. How many people actually pick Ashawat as their starter? I'd have to say less than 1%. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. I then went back to the safari and camped in the jungle for a Groupie to spawn, and it finally showed up. So now my next target was Totodile. So I set up a couple of homes at different rivers and just kept teleporting in between them to eventually get one to spawn. So now, the final Pokemon I needed to hunt now was Sovel. It only spawns in river biomes during the day, and unlike Totodile and Quaxly, which also spawns in rivers, Sovel spawns underwater, while the other two spawn on land, so it was gonna be much tougher to find this little guy. Rivers are small to begin with, so even if you camp one, the chance of getting spawns from other biomes are way higher. It was taking way too long, and eventually, I just decided to ask somebody in the chat if anyone is happening to sell one. I didn't get any replies, so I just carried it on. But what I didn't notice is that somebody had already sent me not just a normal Sovel, but a shiny Sovel. So shout out to Cramrin God for the clutch up, and with that, I had officially completed the hunt for every starter Pokemon. All I had to do now was go back to my base and place them one by one into their enclosures. Some of them are hard to spot, but there wasn't much that I could do about it. And others were way too big to fit in the damn thing, but the crazier it is, the better. Piplup fit perfectly with the snow. The little rocky area was meant to be for the mermaid and Poplio, and Ashawat spawning on the stony shore. Mudkip, Froakie, and Sovel seemed like great candidates for the swamp, while Quaxly just got shoved in there. As for the grass theme, I placed Snivy on the log and Sprigatito on top of the tree, which I feel like is a very feline thing to do. while the jungle theme was home to anything that spawned over there, and Rowlet, which is just, you know. The fire biomes were pretty basic, Fennekin and Tepig chilling in the desert, while Scorbunny and Litten are basically non-existent. Cyndaquil and Fuecoco normally live in the Badlands, but for this, I couldn't incorporate everything into these small areas, so I just shoved them into the lava pit. I had just completed the goal that I set out on, so this brings an end to my video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing, it really means a lot. Let me know any other challenges I should try out in Pixelmon, and with that being said, I'll see you all next time. By the way, Cobblemon is coming out soon.